The end of the road for Toronto FC, a big win for RSL, and Jurgen Klinsmann speaks on Caleb Porter next on The Daily. Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of The Daily, here with Greg Lawless. I'm Nick Furshaw, and we're going to start off with the end of the road for Toronto FC in the CONCACAF Champions League. They were down in Mexico on Wednesday night, second leg of their semifinal series against Santos Laguna. And Greg, it started well. Joao Plata had 2 goals in the first half, but it all went downhill after a PK early in the second half. Julian de Guzman, an ambitious tackle, and Santos Laguna, the doors open for him.
Well, I think we were talking about that you go into Mexico, you can't go into that tackle if you're Julian de Guzman. Even after the game, Aaron Vinter, the coach for Toronto FC, coming out and saying it was not a smart play by de Guzman to even go into that tackle. The odds are that he's not going to get the ball to begin with, and then even if he gets a little bit of the ball, or if it seems like it's a clean one, in that situation, the odds are that the referee is going to blow the whistle for the penalty. And really, that's when things started to unravel to an extent. Even Vinter coming out, though, afterward and saying, even when it was 3-2, he felt that they were still in this, and they were still okay. But then the handball against Miguel Aceval, a strange play, that penalty ended up really unraveling everything for Toronto.
And you can also look at the point, some Toronto FC players said this: Toronto FC up 2-1 late in the first half, and Herculez Gomez gets the second of his 2 goals on the night right at the end of the first half. That sent him into the break. 2-2 set the tone for that second half. Again, Toronto FC eliminated from the CONCACAF Champions League. They're back in action. No rest for the weary for Toronto FC. They're back in action this weekend on the road against Montreal. Real Salt Lake back in action at home on Wednesday night. They're at Rio Tinto Stadium up against the Montreal Impact. Sort of went as you would expected. RSL gets a PK from Paulo Jr. and then able to hold on. Montreal's definitely pesky in this one, unable to get that first win for the expansion franchise. RSL, another big win at Rio Tinto.
Yeah, and it's so hard to get a victory or even a result at Rio Tinto if you're the visiting team. You're right, Montreal were pesky in this one, and they kept it tight, but ultimately this was going to be Salt Lake's game. They had more chances. They finally put the penalty kick away. That was one after Justin Braun with a handball in the box. But I think that RSL maybe not happy with the performance in general. Will Johnson after the game saying that they didn't keep the ball the way he thinks they should have. They certainly didn't put their chances away. And then questions with some injuries at the end. Javier Morales, maybe a little bit of a hamstring issue that popped up toward the end. And Ned Grabavoy reportedly told the coaches that he felt like he had a broken rib and played the last 20 minutes with a broken rib. There's no confirmation of that at all. We'll find out maybe some more today about what's going on with Grabavoy. But overall, Salt Lake now 4-1 on the season, tops in the Western Conference, that very tough Western Conference, and so certainly looking good, getting the results they need, maybe not the performances that you'd like to see from them.
You mentioned a busy slate for Montreal. They're at home again, we mentioned, against Toronto FC next weekend, and for RSL, they're at home in the Rocky Mountain Cup against the Colorado Rapids. Well, another midweek game this week, this one on Thursday night. FC Dallas at home against the New England Revolution, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. You can find that on MLS Live. And this one's going to be an interesting one because we don't know where either of these teams necessarily they stand so far this season. FC Dallas struggling a little bit. New England playing well the last 2 weeks. What do you expect of this?
This is an intriguing matchup all around because Dallas is coming off of that demoralizing loss to DC last Friday. New England coming off that incredible win at Los Angeles, where it wasn't just the result of a 3-1 victory at the Home Depot Center, but it was the way they played. I think our own colleague Simon Board called it sparkling play. So can they do it again 5 days later in Dallas? That's going to be the question. FC Dallas, they have an issue. Daniel Hernandez got the red card against DC, so he will not be available. You know, I think they're going to look to Blas Perez up top, who's playing very well, a couple of goals and an assist on the season. Can he continue that? The news coming out for Dallas that David Ferreira has another 6 to 8 weeks after surgery for his injury. For New England, I don't think there are really many issues. It's, you know, a question of can that midfield continue to play well? Lee Win looked very good. Kellen Rowe got a goal and looked good, and obviously Shari Joseph and Clyde Sims, they can do very good things clogging up the middle. So it's a good New England team that I think has a lot of confidence.
For New England, maybe the biggest issue was some weather issues down there in Dallas on Tuesday. They actually had to spend some time, I think, in a hotel basement because of all the tornado warnings. They'll be back in action Thursday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. You can find that on MLS Live. Last but not least, we'll switch our focus to the U.S. national team. Jurgen Klinsmann, head coach, was on a teleconference on Wednesday with media members, hoping that's going to become a regular thing with media members. All the questions were about the U.S. under-23 Olympic team and what happened down there in Nashville, and whether or not Caleb Porter should have been the man Jurgen Klinsmann called on for the head coach position.
Well, for Klinsmann, he didn't have any problem with Caleb Porter. He certainly stuck by the guy that he hired for the Olympic team. I think there are some questions that are still out there and maybe unanswered about what sort of responsibility Caleb Porter has in this. Klinsmann instead maybe looking at the players, that they didn't fulfill their expectations, they didn't play up to expectations, and also I think maybe challenging the players to say, look, there are higher expectations on the U.S. national team and the younger players at this point. He points out, a couple of players in particular. He looked at Breck Shea and Juan Agudelo for maybe not performing up to expectations. I think it's a little tough on Agudelo. He played 45 minutes, got a goal, and then the injury came along. So lots of questions, I think, for Klinsmann. I love that he's talking to the media on a regular basis. There's going to be a regular teleconference with the media. He's also on Twitter. He's got his now podcast with Alan Hopkins. And so it's nice to see the coach actually going to the fans. I think it's also good to see the fans applying pressure. They care, and that pressure matters. That pressure matters on the players and on the coaching staff, that the fans and the media are pushing them to get better.
Well, he also praised the play of Mix Diskerud and Joe Corona, and also in that teleconference mentioned Herculez Gomez. A lot of fans for the U.S. national team wondering if Herc's going to work his way back into camp. Jurgen Klinsmann saying that, yes, there are a lot of eyes on Herculez Gomez to see what he does down in Mexico. You can find that article as well as all the latest news and your opportunity to vote for the AT&T MLS Goal of the Week. There's a number of ways to vote. You can find out how on MLSsoccer.com.